Okay, now I will show you how to create a map on ArcGIS Online. The first thing you want to do is make sure you are signed in to your account through OSU. And there are instructions on Canvas on how to create that account, and you need to make sure you do it through OSU so you have the right licensing. So once you're signed in and you're on this page, you want to go to Map. And this will open the map viewer. And this is where you can add data and do analysis on that data. So just like in the Express map, you can pan and zoom and you can change the base map. And I will change it to light gray canvas. This is my favorite one. It's not super distracting, but again, it depends on your purpose. For the purpose of this map, the light gray canvas will work. Now the first thing we want to do is add the CSV file that you edited in the last step that has the cases of malaria by country. So we'll click Add and Add Layer from File, and you'll just browse to that file. So here it is on my computer, open it, and import layer. Now this is a really important step. This is not a spatial data set. There's no spatial information other than just the country name, but that doesn't give us any spatial information to add it to a map. So what we want to do is click None, Add as Table. So this will just add the CSV to our map. It won't show it on the map, but it will be in our content. So then click Add Layer. And here it is in our table of contents. And we will join this data to a spatial layer so that we can symbolize the data by cases of malaria, so we can see which countries have the most cases. So now we will click Add again and click Browse Living Atlas Layers. The Living Atlas is a really amazing collection of data from Esri. It has everything from political demographic data to pretty high quality imagery, and I would suggest using this as a resource as you're making your maps, because instead of searching outside for information and data, you can get a lot of great things through the Living Atlas. So we'll search for countries, and we want to add this World Countries Generalized layer. So if you click this button in the bottom right corner, it'll add it to the map. If you go back to details, you can see we have our world countries, our light gray canvas, and our table. The next thing we want to do is join our malaria data to this world countries data. And you can see here, if you open this, this gives you information about every feature that's on the map. So it'll list all the countries and their codes. So what we will do is add more information to this table that will contain malaria cases for each country. To do that, we'll go to Analysis, Summarize Data, Join Features. So we want our target layer to be world countries, and we want to join our malaria data to that target layer. And the order is really important, so make sure you have the correct layers selected. And we want to join with a field, so we'll click Choose the Fields to Match, and we want to match country to location, because our location field in the table in the CSV contains the country name. And that is the only one we have. And our join operation will be 1-to-1, so that means there will be only one match per feature. And we will change the layer name to countries malaria data. And it will save in your account. That's fine. Oops. And if you click run analysis, it'll start the join operation. Okay, sometimes it takes a while to do the operation, but once it's done, you should see your new layer on the map. And this keeps only the features that had a match. So now this layer only has countries that had a reported malaria case. So we can go ahead and uncheck that. Another option is to keep all the features, but for this, I only wanted to keep the countries that had cases of malaria. So now we can change the symbology. So we will change this to show total cases, and this will update to give options for drawing style. So we want to select counts and amounts. So now we can see this symbolizes the countries by the total cases field. So more cases of malaria is a darker color. And you can go into options and change the scale. You can change the symbols. So I want it to be this color ramp. And you can change the sliding scale depending on what you want to show with the data. If you only want the highest cases to be really dark, slide it up higher. If you want, if there's a certain threshold you're interested in, you can slide this bar to show that, but we'll keep it about here. And click OK, and done. So now we have our countries that had malaria cases symbolized by the number of cases. So you can see Sub-Saharan Africa is obviously a hotspot for malaria. And we can further explore that by doing some more analysis. So we'll click on the analysis again and analyze patterns and find hotspots. So we want to select our country's malaria data layer. We want to find clusters in total cases. And we will leave this all the same. And our layer name will be hotspots total cases. And we'll run analysis. The hotspots tool is done running. You'll see a new layer added to your map of the hotspots that were calculated. So we can see that the DRC is a big malaria hotspot. And you can still see the country's malaria data layer, and that's because the symbology of this layer is transparent. So if we increase the transparency, we can see a little bit more, but still our hotspot is pretty obvious here in the red. So now we want to add some climate data because we want to explore potential spatial relationship between climate change and malaria prevalence or spread. So we'll go add, browse living atlas layers, and we'll search for climate. And Esri has these climate models based on various emissions. So we've got low emissions to very high emissions. So we will add moderate emissions to this map, the plus button. So if you go back to content, you'll see that two layers were added. We have temperature and precipitation. So if you uncheck temperature, you'll see precipitation here. And if you click on this button, you'll expand the legend. So the green colors are showing an increase in precipitation, brown is decrease, and for temperature, the darker red is an increase in temperature, a higher increase in temperature. So let's stick with temperature so we can uncheck our precipitation. And obviously we can't see anything else because this is on top of our other layers. So if you click on the symbology button, go to options, scroll down to transparency, you can modify that a bit and maybe make it easier to see both of the layers. So if we turn on our hotspots, or turn off our hotspots, turn on our countries, you can see that pretty much everywhere in the world is going to have an increase in temperature, more so in the northern hemisphere. But we can maybe make some inferences. You know, we see a higher increase in temperature in northern Africa, so we could see a spread of malaria here. And potentially, you know, malaria could spread and be more prevalent norther as temperature gets higher. So those are some, you know, inferences you can make from this data. You can do more analysis to see some overlap in the data, but this is an introduction to some analyses you can make and how you can change the symbology of the data to make it easier to uh, make inferences and connections with your data.